Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down the Monday Night Football slates between the 49ers and the Rams. I'll be going player by player, giving you my takes on what good value plays there are, who we should look to, and who we should avoid for this slate. Monday Night Football slate, $1 million to first. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Also follow me on Twitter, where I keep you guys updated on my plays, PrizePicks plays, any injury news, fantasy football stuff, all that good stuff. So follow me there. Now for the breakdown. At the top, we have Cooper Kupp. Going to be very, very hard to get to him with how expensive he is and how little value there is on the slate. I think he's 100% a flex play for me. I mean, you guys could put him in your captain play. I mean, we know the upside with Cooper Kupp. It's like his floor is basically like mid-teens, if not higher, closer to 20. And then his ceiling is like 30s, 40s. He can even get to 50. I mean, if he has a huge game. So Cooper Kupp, I mean, we know what we were getting with him. So firmly in play as a flex play. Just a little hard to get to him as a captain. Matt Stafford, I prefer him over Jimmy Garoppolo. Stafford, even though he has had a pretty bad start to the season, he's going to throw the ball a little bit more than Jimmy. They're not as focused on the run as the 49ers are. So I know he only pretty much throws it to Cooper, but I do like the upside there, especially if you're going to play Cooper Kupp. It's because Matt Stafford's feeding the ball. I do expect Matt Stafford to have a game where he's going to get multiple touchdowns. He's only had that once this season so far. He had 0 in that Arizona game, so really expecting to bounce back here for Matt Stafford. So I like him a decent amount as a flex play. Don't know if there's enough upside as an optimal captain play for Stafford, but I do like him in the flex. Deebo Samuel, I know he's a huge part of the 49ers offense, but I mean, he makes for a solid captain play, pretty good flex play, but I think it's one of those things where you could definitely fade Deebo, especially for that price. I do think they're going to throw Jalen Ramsey on him a lot. I mean, Deebo Samuel will get some run and some touches out of the backfield, so that will help his floor a little bit, but it is kind of, scary getting to Deebo when, you have Jimmy throwing the ball. He is a very good player, but that Rams D is a little scary, especially with Jalen Ramsey on the other side. So Deebo is looking like an okay play for me today. Obviously, a huge part of the offense, so he does have some upside. You can throw him at a captain. He's going to get those rushing touches. He should have, at least 5, 6, 7 plus targets in this game and pretty much every game. So definitely viable in the captain spot. Same thing with flex. I don't know if I'm going to get there. We'll see. But I think the price is just very, very high for Deebo, who does have a pretty low floor, considering how good these defenses are. It's probably going to be a slow game. The game total isn't too high at all. So Deebo, worth mentioning that you could maybe fade him if you wanted to. Jimmy, he's in play. I wouldn't say as a captain he doesn't have that upside, but he's an okay flex play. I mean, he has the ability to get you a touchdown or 2, maybe even 3, but I don't think he's going to throw for a ton of yards, especially against this Rams defense. And for that reason, at 10,000, I don't know if he's in play for me. He just kind of makes like a C plus play, I'd say, as a flex play. Jeff Wilson Jr. looks okay. I know this Rams D is, I think they're second in the league right now against the run, but Jeff Wilson Jr. does pick up a lot of yards after carries, or yards during his carries. Like, he breaks a lot of tackles. He's top in the league in that, and the Rams are, I think, pretty middle of the pack when it comes to tackling. So if he breaks a few tackles, he can definitely get you 50, 60 yards in this game. We'll see a few targets out of the backfield as well. You just really need him to kind of cross over the end zone and get you those 6 free points as a touchdown. But 8,200 for Jeff Wilson looks decent. Ayuk, good amount of interest in Ayuk. 8 targets the past 2 games, which you do like to see, because Jimmy took over versus Seattle, and then versus Denver had a full game with Jimmy, saw 8 targets. Last year he was pretty up and down. He'd go games where you'd see maybe 1 target, and the next game you'd see 8, and it kind of flip-flop. He wasn't really getting a ton of consistent looks from Jimmy. So coming off of 2 straight games where he did see a consistent amount of looks, do like that, especially if Ramsey's going to be shadowing Deebo, following him around. I do think Ayuk is going to be heavily relied upon, so I do like him a good amount at 7,600. Makes for an okay captain play. I prefer him just in the flex for me. Let's see here. Cam Akers. I don't mind getting to these Rams running backs. I do think both of them are going to be lower owned. If we look at the snap counts for the Rams, we can see that they had a 50-50 split. Cam Akers, I do think, had the better game. What was it? 12 carries, 61 yards, and a touchdown. And then for Henderson, it was 4 for 17. He also got a target. They're both viable when it comes to, pass catching. I'd say Akers is a little bit better, even though he hasn't gotten that much looks, and he's been struggling to get back into the starting running back role. I know they started out with Henderson, and then we saw Akers a lot that second game, and then Henderson started third game, but then Akers kind of took over during the second half. So it's back and forth. I do think I prefer Akers over Henderson. Once again, San Fran's D is good. So is their secondary. So it's kind of like the same thing as Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson has the whole snap share on the running back side over there, 73%. Juszczyk did play 63%, but Juszczyk wasn't seeing much usage, so it's pretty much just a one-man show for Jeff Wilson. That's why he's more expensive. His touches are pretty safe, and when it compared to Cam Akers, Henderson, you could go out there, play Cam Akers, and he could, McVay could just play him for like 5-10 snaps at most. Same thing with Henderson. So it's interesting to see, what ownership will come in for these two, but I do think I prefer Akers, and I don't mind getting into him. He does have some explosion in him. I think we're kind of starting to finally see him realize that he needs to step up during the practices and in these games, because they need to rely upon him, because they need someone else to step up besides Cooper Kupp. So I don't mind getting the Cam Akers at 7,000 as a flex play to get a little bit different from the field. As I said, prefer him a little bit over Henderson, but they're both in play. Kittle, my favorite play on this slate. He saw 5 targets, only caught 4 of them for 28 yards. He's not a guy who's going to go out and get you like 20 air yards a throw. He's more of like the underneath, kind of the 5, 10, 15 yard range for Jimmy to throw him the ball. But at that price, 6,600, I think that's just way too cheap for Kittle. And he nearly played every snap last game versus Denver. If we go down here, where is he? Right here, 91%, 51 snaps. Really no backups are getting any run behind Kittle. So really like Kittle as a captain play, especially really think you want him in the flex, but I really, really like him as a captain play as well. So I'm going to throw him in there. Who else we got? Robinson. It'll be interesting to see what his ownership is. I know a lot of people are not high on him. 5 targets versus Atlanta, 5 versus Arizona. The Arizona game, I think we can kind of throw it out of the window. The offense really didn't do much, as we saw. Stafford had 0 touchdowns. Akers had 1 running touchdown. I think their defense scored 1. I think their kicker did pretty well. So it was just an ugly game for their offense, and they still won. Do expect a little bit of a bounce back here, even in this tough matchup. So I do think you could definitely look to Robinson as a nice flex play to get a little bit different from the field, because I do think he'll come in a little bit under-owned. Backup QBs, Higbee, once again, way too cheap on this price tag here. He saw 11 targets first game, 9 second for that second game. As I said, the offense is pretty tragic for the Rams in that third game against Arizona, and he still saw 4 targets, caught all 4 of them for 61 yards. He's a guy who's going to get heavily involved in this offense. So playing 90+% snaps for the tight end room, he has no competition. Really, really like Tyler Higbee. Ben Skoranek, he is getting run. As we can see, Van Jefferson, he's still on IR. Ben Skoranek saw the third wide receiver run, played 85% of the snaps. So you can definitely look to Ben Skoranek as an okay value play. 4,400 for a guy who's probably going to see maybe 5 targets at most. It kind of looks okay, but once again, this slate really has no value. So you're going to be needing to live on these mid-range guys to get a little bit different. Otherwise, you're going to have to, pray that a guy like Jennings or like Juszczyk, or maybe if Dwelley plays, he only plays 1 snap and he gets a touchdown. You really hope they need to, score a touchdown. Otherwise, you're screwed. In the mid-range, lineups are going to do a lot better. But back to defenses, I don't think the defenses are a play for me. Both quarterbacks are interception prone, so you can definitely play a defense. I just think they're probably going to be, 20+% owned, both of them. And at that price tag and ownership, I'm just not going to get to them. I'd rather fade them than play them, because once again, you need a defensive touchdown or this game to be very, very low scoring for them to be in play. And I just don't like playing them. Would rather get to the kickers, who once again, whatever offense I do think you're going to lean towards more, you should play that kicker. I think I'm going to lean towards Matt Gay. Coming off a solid game, made 2 field goals. 2 extra points. I think he has a little bit better of a leg, but Robbie Gould is pretty solid as well. Just haven't had much luck when it comes to kicking the field goal because I haven't been scoring much. So I do think I prefer Matt Gay over Robbie Gould. And as I said, they're both pretty optimal when it comes to if you're game stacking one side, throwing the kicker in there, because if your offense is scoring points, the kicker's going to have a good amount of chances of scoring points and those extra points. So don't mind getting to a kicker on the slate. As I said, Rams, you can go to their defense. Obviously you have Aaron Donald, one of the best defensive tackles ever. So don't mind getting to him and the Rams. But as I said, don't think I'm going to prefer getting to the defenses just because you really need a touchdown or this game to be like a 10-7 game, because otherwise they're not going to pay off. Powell for the Rams had 3 catches, 3 targets. I think that's a little bit of a mirage. As you can see, he played only 6 snaps and he got involved on 3 of them. I just don't think there's enough history here for Powell to do well to even take a dart throw on him. So at 3,000, I don't think I'd go there. Ray McLeod on the other side. Played 10 snaps, 18%. He's kind of floating around that mark, 10 to 18 plays a game. If you wanted to get very, very risky, like a dart throw, punt play, you can definitely look to him. But as you can see, not very involved in offense at all as the 4th wide receiver for the 49ers, excuse me. And I don't understand that because Juwan Jennings is the 3rd wide receiver. As you can see, he's played 41 snaps, 35, 26. So he's played, about 50% of the game, if not a little bit more. And he's cheaper than Ray McLeod. As you can see, 6 targets that first game, then 2 and 3. So he's not heavily involved, but at 2,000, he's looking like one of the better value plays on the slate. Blanton, not in play for me. As we can see, he only played 5 snaps. Before that, didn't play anything. So yeah, I want to go to a backup tight end on the Rams, unless you're really, really hoping and praying that they get like a catch and one catch, 1 touchdown, in the red zone. Otherwise, they're not going to pay off those price tags. Jordan Mason, I think he played, let's see here, 5 snaps. I think you can kind of expect the same thing here. I mean, if you wanted to take a dart throw, maybe, he gets more run because he's had more practice time, but I just don't think you need to go there. I like Juszczyk a good amount. He only caught one catch for 24 yards, but he's in there a lot of the game. As we can see here, he played 35 snaps, 63% of the game. He's a great run blocker, great blocker on the catch or on the passing plays. I think he ran routes on 25 of those 35 snaps. So he's heavily involved in the passing game. Jimmy just didn't look to him in that game versus Denver, only 1 time. But he does have that opportunity. He could get involved in the red zone. So I do like him a decent amount as my value play on the slate. Ross Dwelley is questionable. If he plays, I think it's one of those things you can maybe expect 5 to 10 plays from him. Once again, you can take that shot that he gets that red zone catch for a touchdown. Otherwise, not gonna get much at all. And that really does it on the slate. Yeah, I mean, that pretty much does it. Where's Tutu Atwell? Let's see here. Playing about 3 to 5 snaps a game. Don't think I'd go there. Yeah, that pretty much does it. As I said, there's not a ton of value on this slate, so I do think I'm going to be living in that mid-range route, trying to building just a middle of the pack lineup. Unless you want to take a shot on one of these cheaper guys like Juwan Jennings, who's going to be very popular as a value. I do think Juszczyk's going to pick up more ownership than last slate. But otherwise, there's not a lot of value. Do you think you should, maybe dip down into the kickers, and that's about it. I'd stay above that. And that's the slate breakdown. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.